Welcome, everybody, to the news segment, February 17th, 2023. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Let's go around and see what everybody is drinking, starting with Nick. Nick, what do you got down there?
I am about to finish up the El Valorio from Second Self, and I'm just cracking open the Mango American Kolsch from Flying Shoes.
Robert, what about you?
I have got myself a poorly mixed negative Godfather right now, courtesy of the spiritless non-alcoholic bourbon, Kentucky 64, and the non-alcoholic Amaretti, which I have clearly put too much Amaretti in there with the bourbon. It's extremely sweet, but I guess to kind of balance that out, I've got myself a glass of the Big Drop Brewing, my last can of Big Drop Brewing, the non-alcoholic extra dark stout.
How do you adjust your, like, were you eyeballing the portions and like, yeah, that looks good, or?
Pretty much. I mean, the thing is that for like a Godfather, it's generally supposed to be kind of like 3 parts bourbon, 1 part amaretto, because you're supposed to just at least get the little sweet, but you're still supposed to have, the heat and the kick from the bourbon. And so I really was not paying attention, and I kind of went half and half. So it's like super sweet.
I think at this time, maybe if you're going to be doing a lot of these at-home cocktails like that, especially with the NA stuff, maybe it might be time to invest in a nice little a two-pronged jigger to pour the proper ounces, 1.5 ounce pour.
Probably. I mean, and also another thing is that, and I think I talked about it real quick before we did the last show, in talking about the Spiritless brand and how they have ready to drink non-alcoholic cocktails, and they have it in old fashioned. There was another one that I couldn't remember what it was. But I'm still looking forward to trying those and just seeing how those taste, because it's just like the non-alcoholic game has really evolved from where we were with O'Doul's way back in the day. And, from going from that to, all of these different beers that breweries are making, that, breweries having a, what the heck do they call it? Like a de-alcoholizer or whatever it is called, where they basically just can put it into this machine and get rid of the alcohol, but still keep the flavor. There's quite a few that, my normal stops in Ferndale Project and Eastern Market Brewing, where they have those. And, I have those pretty much every time that I'm there, just because, I'm in a brewery. I want to enjoy, a beer, but I also want to not have a beer. And I want to have that, kind of have a little bit of that sensation. So I am looking forward to trying those the NA RTDs and seeing how those taste and how they work out, which I'm imagining they do a hell of a lot better of a job of mixing the non-spirits a hell of a lot better than I can, especially the bartenders over at Metropolitan Bar, which I'll give another shout out to them, that they do a pretty good job themselves of making a negative Negroni. That's some good stuff.
Well, for myself, I am drinking what I thought was a Texas beer, but as I was buying it, co-host Dan informed me, because we were down in Austin together a few weeks ago, that my El Segundo Broken Skull American Lager is actually brewed in El Segundo, California. So as much as I just assumed, since it is the Stone Cold Steve Austin beer and the lager at that, it was going to be brewed in Texas, but I guess not. But I want to stick on the NA portion a little bit, because there was a article within Forbes recently, within the last day, regarding the Keurig Dr. Pepper investment into Athletic Brewing. This investment was $50 million, which gives everyone, gives that brand a minority stake into the $500 million that the valuation is for Athletic Brewing. So we're not technically at a unicorn status yet, which is $1 billion. But Forbes called the just shy of $500 million valuation a heady one of about 8 times revenues in an industry where low single digits are the norm. Now, the details come with the fact that Athletic is actually 20% of all U.S. non-alcoholic beer sales, which is ridiculous when you compare craft beer to macro beer, when you compare NA beer to non-NA beer. 1 out of every 5 beers is this craft brewery out of both San Diego, California, and Connecticut, which, of course, when we had Athletic on the show, they were actually in their brand new San Diego facility, showing it off a little bit. Athletic is in 15% of U.S. retailers licensed to sell beer, which means that they are not only their market share is very small with regards to how far in expanse they are, but where they are, they sell a lot. Their maximum capacity right now is at 650,000 barrels, which puts them into the ability to be a top 5 craft brewery in the United States, selling NA beer alone. With Dry January over, of course, there are plenty of other dates, Dry July, Sober October. A lot of people are looking to cut back. They're looking to cut not only back, but calories, which Athletic does a little bit with, having a lower calorie option to regular beer. I guess the question to you guys that I want to open it up to with all that premise, the future of NA beer, is it here? Is it the future? And can we expect Athletic to continue to grow a lot more? Or do we see it somewhere plateauing and falling off like we are with the current seltzer market?
So I kind of feel like, as far as the NA market, it's not going anywhere. There's way too many people who are enjoying it. That that has some people who have even come from that era of old duels and now having NA beers and thinking, holy shit, this actually does taste like a damn beer. So with the new stock of drinkers that is being created every day, that we've seen the articles where not as many that become of age are drinking beer. Some of them are starting out with NAs, and so I feel like it's going to continue to grow. As far as Athletic is concerned, I was not aware that they were at 20% of all NA sales. That is remarkable, and it's just unbelievable. U.S. sales, U.S. NA sales, yes.
NA beer sales, I should say.
Yes.
We've got so many of these products now, and all this going. We've had Partake on, which is Canadian. We had Big Drop on, which is from the UK. So I want to make sure it's 20% of all U.S. NA beer sales.
Right. I forgot to turn Excel on and put my filters on there. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So I see them still growing even more. But the thing I got this weird feeling about is that it kind of gives me this Sam Adams feel, where they are just going to grow and grow and grow. And then they're going to become the US NA grandfather of non-alcoholic beers, and everyone else is going to catch up. They're still going to have the sales, but they're going to hit this plateau where they can't grow anymore because there's too many other makers and too many other products in the market. So there's got to be a point where, especially when somebody is looking at that 20% of all U.S. non-alcoholic beer sales, there's going to be other places that are looking at that and saying, okay, where can I take away from that? What can I do to make a better non-alcoholic beer? And eventually somebody's going to figure that out. And it's going to be somebody who's going to be big enough to to play with the big dogs, so to speak, and take away a little bit of athletic shine. I still think they'll be there. I don't see, with the way that Athletic is making NA beers. I mean, their NA beers are pretty damn good. I put them pretty much, them and Untitled Art are two of the ones that I always go for before anybody else. So I don't know if that is just because that's what every place that I go to really puts on the shelves, or if everyone else is just kind of a lower quality, or I think it's more just like I just see Athletic and I see Untitled, and those are the ones that I'm going to go for because they make good non-alcoholic beers. But eventually somebody's going to catch up, and they're all going to just have to kind of share that limelight. But I think Athletic is going to take quite a bit more before they hit the plateau. I kind of see them as maybe it's a hot take, but I feel like I think they can get to 40%.
You think they're going to double at some point?
Before
Before they come back down?
I think before they come down, I think they can hit 40. I know that's
a big number. That's a big number.
That's a big number.
It's a very big number considering that. Well, I mean, they're already at 20% of all American non-alcoholic, and we got to stress that non-alcoholic American sales.
Right, but it does go back to what Ken said, where they've got the capacity where they can be. Did you say that they could be like top 5?
Top 5 in craft beer, yes.
Top 5 in craft beer. They've got capacity.
They have the capacity, they have the financial backing, and they have the distribution set up where they have one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. And because it's NA, they can sell it online and ship it anywhere.
Well, except Michigan. I think actually, come to think about it, I think New Mexico has some crazy laws too about NA beer being beer. When I was in Albuquerque late last year, the guy was complaining about his inability to. He had to buy through distro only. He could not buy from the site anymore. So, I mean, it's even worse here in Michigan because we can't, as the consumers, buy from the site. So we have to buy from a store that can buy from distro. And distro can only probably what they distro. So we can't get all those special releases that they have on their website, which I get emails for weekly. I'm pretty much SOL. I don't know if it'll get to 40%. Of NA beer sales. I think the reason why seltzers are falling off, I think a lot of people are going to start going towards RTDs and NA RTDs. I think a lot of people are going to truly start to see the calorie and carb numbers of alcohol, spirits, a lot more than they see beer, and start moving to beer. And without the low calorie options that we see in some other NA beer options, that can be, anywhere from 25 to 30 calories a can, I think a lot of people are going to, as they move into NA, move away from Athletic. I still think that they're going to be the top dog from now until they decide to sell or go public, but I don't foresee them doubling their share of the market anytime ever. I feel confident in putting money in that.
Well, and I think I still feel that the reason seltzers went down is because there's a whole lot of people that know what Kool-Aid with the right amount of sugar tastes like, and seltzer gets that shit wrong all the damn time. I mean, I don't want Kool-Aid with half the sugar in it. I'm not drinking that shit. Why would I want to have alcohol that tastes like that? Nobody. The seltzers are just. There's only so many seltzer makers that make seltzer right, and there's too many that make it wrong.
I mean, I can't say much. I'll still drink my White Claws and my Trulies and my the faint taste of like the thought of a lemon inside my lemon or my lime seltzer. Nick, you want to add anything on top of that?
I still am a little hesitant to say 40%, but I've been wrong in the past, and yeah, I mean, they I think they're definitely in a position to keep growing, but I don't know if they're going to hit that high. And I think there will be someone that will start slowly cutting into it, but right now, I think they got a pretty good grasp on the market right now, and can only go up. But I don't think they're going to get as high as Rob is saying.
Well, Nick, what's your article for the the week?
Another serious one, believe it or not. This one coming out of the state of Illinois. Late last week, in the Illinois General Assembly in the Senate, introduced a bill seeking legalization of direct-to-consumer shipping of craft beer in the state of Illinois. Senate Bill 2193, which would amend the Liquor Control Act of 1934, would basically, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase the bill a little bit here. Oh gosh, come on, computer, what are you doing? The joys of live radio, folks. The joys of live radio. Amending the Liquor Control Act of 1934, creating a brewer's shipper's license that will allow a person with a brewer, Class 1 brewer, Class 2, or Class 3 brewer or brew pub license, who is licensed to make beer to ship under the state laws of another state to ship beer made by that licensee directly to a resident of this state who is 21 years or older. This is something that has actually been legal for Illinois wineries for over 15 years. And now they are looking to try to do it one more time, this time with beer. Good idea, bad idea? Is it time to get with the times? Do you think this is the right move for the state of Illinois? Of course, the Illinois Brewers Guild thinks that this is a very, very good thing to help with business and kind of cut the middleman out a little bit to get directly to consumer. What are your guys' take on this?
This is one of the things that you're going to get all of the lobbyists against. You're going to get probably the Illinois wholesalers lobby, the Illinois spirits lobby, the Illinois wine lobby, the Illinois tavern lobby and bar lobby and restaurant lobby, all going against this because it's going to eat into their profits. The ability to be able to buy something like, say, Revolution Brewing right from a website and get it delivered to me would be something that is, assuming I'm in Illinois. But speaking, it's the exact same if they were to try this law in Michigan. All of these places are going to be against it. They're going to be against it because the bar wants you to come to their bar to drink the Revolution Brewing beer. The store wants you to go to the store. So, and the wineries, now that you have the option, which gives you more options to buy, will not want you infringing on people who buy it, even though not too many people are buying wine online are now going to buy beer online because they can buy beer online. But follow the money as to who is going to start spending against this bill, to see who doesn't like it. I personally, as a consumer, want more access to the products that I have available, especially so that I don't have to drive, say, to City Built Brewing, which is over in, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 2.5 hours away from me, when I could just get it delivered. Or Wax Wings has their huge release right now of, it's like $33 a bottle for a beer that's coming out. We posted it over on the Michigan Craft Beer Discord. It is the Sauce Father, a barrel-aged coconut tiramisu stout, which was in a blend of Elijah Craig and Willet barrels. Yeah, it's a lot. But if I want it, I want to be able to buy it online. I don't want to have to buy, I'll pay for shipping. I think a lot of these people will pay for shipping. But the inability to get the beer into the hands, I think, hinders a lot of breweries that want to maybe even make more beer. If Wax Wings has the ability to ship this off to where people don't have to wait in line, people don't have to wait outside, people don't have to, do all these things, and they could be more confident in making more beer and selling more beer, more power to the breweries. So yes, it's a great thing for the consumer. Yes, it's a great thing for the breweries, and the only people that are going to be pissed is the people that it'll potentially take money out of their profits, because there are more options and people want that option more than theirs.
Just one quick side note before I want to hear your take on this. Since the initial reading of this bill in the Illinois General Assembly Senate, it has gained 2 additional co-sponsors. So we're up to 3 total sponsors on this bill. Started with 1, it gained 2 more on the same day just this week. So, Rob, go ahead.
I mean, basically, Ken said a lot of what I was thinking as well. I mean, this is something that should have happened 15 years ago along with wine at the same time. But the problem that we have now is that in those 15 years, you've had these profits that have been generated from not having, direct to consumer shipping, and you're taking away people's money. And so people are going to come after that. It's like, I always make the, for the anime heads out there, I always make the equivalent exchange reference that you're taking away, you're giving the consumer what they want. Cause that's definitely something that I want as well. But you're going to be taking away the money that the distributors are making in being able to, get that beer from the brewery and then sell it to you. You are taking it away from the bars that that are trying to sell it themselves as well. There's going to be a give and take that in putting something like that out into Illinois, that someone's going to lose, and those people who are going to lose are going to fight tooth and nail to try and keep things the way they are. Going into shipping and having that beer shipped. One of the things that I always remember is a few years ago, I remember winning a lottery for a barrel-aged beer at White Flame Brewing out in Hudsonville, a little bit of a suburb just outside of Grand Rapids. And I remember driving out there to get the beer and, was really excited about it. There was all this talk on the Facebook groups about this beer and winning the lottery for it and being able to buy it. I got it home, and I remember that being one of the worst beers I have ever had. I did not enjoy it. There were a lot of people who did enjoy it, but I did not enjoy it in any sense. Like it's supposed to be this barrel-aged stout with maple syrup and all this, and it was supposed to be, relatively close to Charlotte Street's 15th State barrel stout, or the Canadian version, and it just wasn't there. And if I could have had that shipped, I still would have been pissed about it, but I wouldn't be as pissed at the fact that I just made a 4-hour round trip drive to go pick this up. Like, I would have loved to have it shipped. And California has a direct to consumer shipping. There's been beers from the brewery who we've interviewed as well that, I've had the beer shipped to my brother who lives out there in the San Fran area. And then he finds a way to get it to me. I'd love to be able to have that shipped here, but when Michigan even decides to have a direct consumer shipping, I feel like that's one of those things where the Lions got to win a Super Bowl before we even get that. And the weird thing is, I don't know why I even say that, because in all honesty, they're put on a pretty damn good team last year, and they could be contenders. So, if I said that 5 years ago, it'd make more sense. But now they're looking pretty damn good.
again, I'll bring it back, and we talked about this back in like the Royal Oak Studio days, but it's still in the front of my mind when the Wisconsin Tavern League of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Tavern League wanted breweries in Wisconsin to sell the breweries to a distributor and then buy it back from a distributor because they felt it was unfair to the taverns, the bars, the restaurants, that they had to pay a premium because they had to buy the keg and then sell it for obviously more money to make money on the keg. Whereas the breweries can just sell the beer for what they sell it for, per pint at a level much lower because they don't have to go through that process. These are the kinds of things that, like, one, life is not fair. And I think that is one of those life is not fair things where if you're not making the product yourself, you shouldn't get the benefits of selling it for a much lower price. You're a reseller. That's all you are. You're a reseller when it comes to breweries, to taverns. That's just my thoughts on that. So whenever these laws come through and people talk about like direct to consumer, the first thing I think of is that where is the money going against these laws? Who is trying to stop the consumer from an ease of obtaining product? And there are a lot of people probably in the chat, a lot of people whose significant others, as you're listening to this podcast, are probably excited that you can't do something like that, and probably excited that Tavour, it might be your only outlet, which of course you can go into Tavour and utilize our code, BOD podcast. With the Tavour code, you get a certain money off of your first purchase. So if you are in Michigan and you didn't get a chance to use Tavour the original time, feel free to use it now. That helps you get a little bit of discount on your first one because that addiction is very expensive. As you go and you buy a lot of beers, as Rob and maybe Wendy can attest to, maybe going a little overboard once or twice.
I have in the past.
It's okay.
But,
that's the past.
Yeah, that's well in the past. I have gotten. I think there was actually when they came back to Michigan, I put the app back on, and I was just like, nah, this isn't a good idea. And especially not going to pay it. I don't want to pay it to see these emails at all because then it's just going to be like, oh my god, that's going to be here. That's going to be here. I feel like for a lot of the beers that we have enough here in the state that I think definitely here's the fix, so to speak. I don't need there's obviously there's some that are out there that you can only get in California, which I'm still a fan of, and when I can get them, I will see what I can do about getting them. But I keep it very, very respectable in terms of what I'm spending, because there was definitely one of those points where it was just like, okay, that's too much. We need to not do that anymore.
Well, I think we all, even in our history of craft beer drinking, we've all had those, and not whales, but beers that, given the opportunity to buy, we will buy. I mean, I would buy Fat Tire all the time before it came into Michigan. I would go to Three Floyds when I would hit like Chicago for work. I'd always stop at Three Floyds. So there are things like right now, every time I see someone, like especially as spring training's coming through, going to Florida, and I'm like, hey, if you see this on the shelf from Funky Buddha, I'm so excited, I'm so scared.
I'm so scared.
I'm like, just buy it. I will literally Venmo you the money faster than you walk to the register. Like, these are the kind that's a beer that I love that I can't get, that I'm also able to drink within certainty where I'm not gonna like overdo it. That's the same for I've got a handful more bottles of Mean Old Tom, but I'm not running to Toledo to get it all the time because we still have plenty of craft beer here in Michigan. I've got plenty of beer from Austin that I still haven't finished. That was a fun trip. I wish Dan was here. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it 2 weeks ago, as I was sick. But that first day when we were brewery hopping and we got back and we saw all the beer we bought from all the breweries we went to, and we're like, oh, we're making like 6 trips from the car to the Airbnb just because we bought so many beers. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna start. I literally felt like I was 20 years old that weekend because I had such a constant buzz. That we weren't like, if I was driving somewhere, like I wasn't drinking more than like 1 beer an hour, but when I was back at the Airbnb, I was beer after beer after beer, let's party. So I definitely hammered a lot of those beers. We found, no joke, a Indian restaurant with a tap list bigger than Brown Iron Brew House.
What?
This was
wow,
legit amazing Indian food plus to-go beer.
Damn.
And not like to go like get a growler. Like they had a good amount. I would say probably as big as let's say a third of Zaytuna liquor.
Okay.
So a decent amount, not huge, but still a really good amount. Then we also went to a place called the Hoppy Monk, and that place had so many beers on tap as well. But yeah, Dan and I had a blast out in the Austin and San Antonio area. The Shiner Tour, oh my God. If you guys have never been to Shiner, Texas, if you get a chance, if you're in Austin, San Antonio, I would say even Houston, take the trip out to Shiner, Texas, take the tour. Go on a weekday because you can actually see everything in work. So you can see the people packaging, you get to see the robots moving, you get to see the scientists that are in there that are working on the yeast and all those other chemicals and stuff, doing all the science shit that I don't understand. That Shiner tour is amazing. Plus all the stuff that you can buy over there. We walked out of there with a lot more than we expected to buy. And it was because it was a lot of stuff that they don't sell on the regular site.
Right.
So definitely go check out. They also have barbecue there, which is like less than $10 a plate too. And when we went, we had live music. Like this was all in all a great trip. Definitely a great family experience too, because the kids get to see like all the fun machines and stuff, so they get to kind of enjoy it from a kid's point of view. And then of course food and live music, so you can bring your kids and still enjoy. And if you have to pay for the tour, I think you might have to pay for them, but you get 3 beer tokens for when you pay for the tour, so you get 3 beers while you're there. So yeah, that's not a commercial for Shiner. We just had so much fun there. We'll definitely be posting some of the photos, but yeah, we were kind of sad we went on a weekend because we didn't get to see the whole brewery in action. Sorry, I went on like a little tangent. I just had so much fun. Rob, what's your article for the day?
All right, my article for the day is a little bit of a merging that happened back. That was announced back on Wednesday. So out in California, Rich and Tammy Norgrove, owners of Cloverdale's Bear Republic Brewing, are officially joining forces with John Martin and Roy Kerkorian of Drake's Brewing. They announced back on Wednesday the sale and purchase of certain assets of Bear Republic to Artisan Brewers LLC, which is Drake Brewing's business name. The deal basically means that Drake's is going to acquire all of Bear Republic's recipes, formulas, the intellectual property, and Drake's is going to produce the full Bear Republic lineup of beers. I'm not sure if there's people out there who have seen the Racer 5 IPA. I believe that is distributed here. I've seen it. I've never purchased it, but I've definitely seen it. But that is going to happen. Rich Norgrove has said that we have always admired Drake's Brewing Company's passion for craft beer and their community, as well as their commitment to quality. Joining forces with Drake's will allow us to bring our beers to even more customers, and we're excited to be a part of the Drake's family. The reason I was looking at this article was that it was making me think about the amount of breweries that we have here in Michigan. I think we're at like 440 right now, which you can see the majority of those on the Michigan Beer Map app. There you go. download that app and go check those out.
Michigan Brewery Map app.
See, I said, and I still get things wrong today. There we go. You're gonna get the wrong app, people. Sorry about that. The one thing I'm kind of curious about, well, the reason why I was looking at this was I was thinking to myself, what breweries would I like to see merge together and, just make a full catalog and just like share their recipes and just do whatever to make themselves, a bigger brand. I know there was another article that I was looking at that Ken, you had shared about how the thought of breweries merging together would actually make them more sustainable, which I kind of think it might be a good idea considering the fact that we're over 9,000 breweries, and there's going to be a point where something's going to pop. But thinking about the breweries that are here in Michigan, I was trying to think about two breweries that I would like to see merged. And it's nothing wrong with the breweries for the ones that I mentioned. It's nothing wrong with them at all. I just think it would be just kind of cool to see what they would do as one brewery together. And so the two that I thought of was Brew Detroit and Drafting Table. And I see the looks that are from there already.
I can hear the people listening to the podcast, which of course, if you're listening to the podcast, you can go check out the video, youtube.com/betterondraft. But Brew Detroit and Drafting Table, no way.
Yeah, I agree. I know.
First, so here's my theorem, whatever you want to call it. One, when you we used to have a decent collaboration of breweries within the state of Michigan between Detroit Beer Co., Royal Oak Brewing, and Rochester Mills Brew Pub. That used to be a nice little trifecta. There was a lot of sharing of recipes. People understood they were kind of together, but they were all very separate. You can go check out some of our older episodes with Eric Brigham to kind of understand the separation between the three projects themselves. Now, when it comes to breweries within the state, breweries and out of state, when I see a brewery conglomerate to exist, one, I want it to be kind of like Canarchy or Kings and Convicts, where these breweries are separate. They are in other states to where it's easier for you to distro, so I want some distance between the two. To where one, if you have a Brew Detroit, which has a massive production facility, they can help, say, a Toppling Goliath, which also has a decent production facility. Now you have Brew Detroit, who can handle all of Toppling Goliath stuff for the East Coast and down to the Southeast. And you have Toppling Goliath that can handle the Brew Detroit stuff, which isn't nationally known as Toppling Goliath, for the West Coast. So you can brew in each other's facilities, kind of like how we had at one point Canarchy was brewing High at Perrin to distro High in Michigan prior to Cigar City getting into Michigan. That's what I would like to see. When it comes to Michigan, what I would love for brewery conglomerates, brewery collaborations, conglomerates, because it's not collaboration. You're talking about combining these breweries into one. I'm talking
about combining them into one, which I guess in by the looks, I'm thinking too local.
That's 1,000% what I agree with, because Drafting Table, goddamn, if they're pro pills, if they want to sell more than that, they can go to Brew Detroit themselves to do a contract brew, kind of like how Old Nation did D43 for the Detroit M43 keg only beer. But for me, this is what I'm thinking is that I love Brew Detroit. I love that because Brew Detroit can do so much at that facility that they can't do anywhere else. What I want to see with Brew Detroit is either something in the UP, preferably on the west side. So maybe Brew Detroit, and I could even say Barrel and Beam. That's west-ish. That's central UP. Brew Detroit, Barrel and Beam. Being able to get Barrel and Beam down here, maybe at a much cheaper price point because it's brewed down here versus up there. Or even if we go the complete opposite, Black Rocks up in the UP, which has a nice little distro. They can get over to, Wisconsin, Minnesota, handle that northern area. And then you get a brewery down here that could definitely use the distro boost. Off the top of my head, if it's a brewery that wants to enter into distro that serves amazing beer, you have City Built, which we just had on our show, which has a limited distro through M4. But even so, I would think you'd take maybe even Recipes or a brewery that's a sneaky good brewery. And I'm not going to even say something that's down here. I'm going to say something that's up in Reed City, and that's Reed City Brewing.
Right.
You give me the distribution of Black Rocks with the amazing fucking beer that Reed City does.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. I think you have a nice conglomerate there where you have a great brewmaster, and that's not knocking Black Rock's brewmaster or quinoa's brewmaster. I'm going to say quinoa.
Kiwana. There we go.
Brewmaster. Like, I'm not knocking them, but they have the ability to take a brewery that there is a amazing brewmaster at. And again, I'm not knocking anyone by saying Reed City. I just have a really big love for all the beer that Reed City has made. Get that beer into cans and go. And I think that's what you need is you need a brewery that has the distro power or the ability to can and facilitate. Even Dark Horse Roke. That's there you go right there. That's probably a very good example. You have the ability to can go, so it doesn't have to be UP. It could be Shorts. It could be Right Brain. It could be somewhat like New Holland or Founders. Bells, I mean, Saugatuck. Oh my god.
Saugatuck.
Saugatuck is the ability to, like, they got Gonzo's. Now they have Gonzo's recipe. If Saugatuck grabbed Reed City and destroyed Reed City, fuck. Come on, where's that? I need to go find an email right now. I've got an idea.
See, and this is why I brought that up, because clearly I was thinking way too small. I was thinking too small, and
I think you had the right idea. I just think you were thinking way too close. Where, like, you chose two breweries who distro, Brew Detroit and Drafting Table. One brewery that has massive ability to brew beer, Brew Detroit. Brew and package, I should say, like their ability to brew a lot of barrels. I just do not see the necessity of Drafting Table and Brew Detroit to bind together. I don't see any mutual benefits between those two. I do see Brew Detroit, Reed City, Brew Detroit. I was about to say Jamesport because they make amazing beer too, but they're a brew pub. I'm trying to think of, like, in my head, every single, like, big brewery, like, great brewery I could think of is a brew pub in my head. I don't think they are, but, like, Three Gatos makes amazing beer over there. Two Guys makes amazing beer. Archival makes amazing beer. Like,
what about some of the smaller ones in the area, like a Loaded Dice or an Unexpected?
I still think we're thinking too local to where I don't think Brew Detroit would appreciate their outreach, their, like, how big they are or how big they could be. Versus, like, because we're still Metro Detroit. Like, Reed City.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you need to get somewhere that's out of Metro Detroit and either too small that nobody knows about, that they can just yank that brewer, or someone who's big to where it's good for both parties. I think Loaded Dice does good where they are by themselves, and I don't think they need Detroit Beer Company. I think Detroit Beer Company, excuse me, Brew Detroit will just kind of like gobble them up. And as much as I think Brew Detroit would gobble up Reed City, I think that's also because I know Jeff, and I don't think Jeff would sell like that. So
yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of personal relationships in there. I know I've talked a lot, but I just I think there needs to be a proper either a 1,000% separation of distribution to where I just own you, I own you, I own you, I own you, and you own a bunch of places all around the country, and you go from there. But for me, like if I was Kings and Convicts, like I want to be able to buy brewery, like I'm Canarchy. I want to be able to buy breweries kind of a little bit all over the place, to where if one brewery fails, I can go make product somewhere else and sell it back to that brewery. Like that's my theory in my head of business. Now it could be completely wrong, and somebody over at like Canarchy could be like, yeah, we can't even do that. But in my head, that's the process that I would think, to where if something were to go down, like say something happens at New Belgium, or Bell's needs to pick up some slacking at New Belgium. Maybe they had a bad batch or two, or maybe they had an issue in Colorado and they need to close the brewery for 2 weeks. Like if Bell's has the production ability to be able to just brew some Fat Tire, whatever it is now, some Voodoo Ranger, like go for it. Like that's, I don't know. That's in my head what I would do for this. But I do agree that breweries need to there are some breweries that need to latch together, but I don't foresee a lot of small breweries being able to do it unless they're local. And if it's a big brewery, you need to be able to find a mutual agreement between the two breweries.
Yeah, for sure.
Nick, what do you think?
I think the two that were mentioned, Brew Detroit and Drafting Table, I don't think there's any gain. I agree. There is no gain. They are so set. I would consider them they're not small. Let's get that straight. They're not small breweries. They're players in Michigan, especially Brew Detroit. Drafting Table maybe a little bit on the smaller than Big Brew Detroit, but with the stuff that they put out, I think makes them a lot bigger than what they're outfitted for. So I would see, picking on Drafting Table for a hot second, I think I see them getting gobbled up. I don't see them getting gobbled up first and foremost. Mm-hmm. I would see them getting gobbled up by someone. I don't know if I would say out of state, but maybe someone on the west side, maybe. Or maybe something in the Great Lakes region, maybe, where they don't have an outreach into Michigan, potentially.
Yeah. So just to give some clarification, production-wise, Brew Detroit ranks 24th in the state of Michigan at 3,300 barrels. Drafting Table.
That's it? Only 3,300?
Drafting Table ranks 42nd at 1,316 barrels.
So we're talking almost 3 times as big as Drafting Table, basically. I would figure that Brew Detroit is actually brewing more.
That's what they.
I know that's what the numbers say, but I just figured that I don't know. But yeah, I would say like if it's gonna be anybody, it's gonna be most likely someone from outside of the state that does not have a hand or reach into Michigan. And if they had the capital, they have the investment, and they had the daring to do so to two really well-known brands in craft beer in Michigan. Mm-hmm. That's how I see either of those getting gobbled up. I mean, Brew Detroit makes one of my favorite beers of all time in Cerveza del Rey. I hope that never goes away, and I will grab it at any summer beer fest regardless, because it's that good. I've had it many times. I don't care. I'm grabbing it. It's the perfect summer. It is one of the perfect summer beers. But
drafting table would have the eyes of kings and convicts. Like, that's who would have the eyes of that. They're not big enough to be on the radar of Miller Coors, ABI, and that's not like a neg on them. Like, their beer is good, but the production amount they have versus what ABI probably wants or Molson Coors wants is not on the same level. Like, Atwater is on like the third tier of craft beer in Michigan, because the first tier is Founders and Bell's, the second tier is New Holland and Shorts, and then the next tier is basically Atwater, Old Nation, Saugatuck, Keweenaw, Oddside, Griffin Claw, and Black Rocks. Like, those are the top three tiers. And when I say tiers, like, you have to understand is that Bell's Brewing brewed 490,000 barrels in 2021, and the rest of the breweries combined, not including Founders, brewed only like 350,000 combined. So you got Founders at 540, Bell's at 490, and then the entirety of the Michigan craft beer community at 350. Wow. But when you look at even the next tier, which I said, New Holland and Shorts, New Holland's at 47,500, Shorts is at 4,600, 649, and it's not until Atwater at number 5 at 16,000. So, like, you go from 490K to 47K, and then number 5 is 16K. So that's 2, 3, and 5. Like, the numbers are way too spread out.
Right.
So that's what I mean by the tiers. But yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of breweries that could benefit from being together. I think there are a lot of breweries that could benefit from selling out. And when I say selling out, I'm not like thinking Real Big Fish sellout. I'm thinking like maybe you want to retire. There's like 4 or 5 breweries right now in the state of Michigan. A lot of them are just people who want to retire. Like Bell's Brewing. Larry Bell was there for like 37 years brewing beer.
He was
Bell's,
done.
and his daughter didn't want it, so what are you going to do? You got to sell it. That is going to do it. The Michigan Craft Beer Series, February 17th, 2023. Folks, the Robert era has officially come to an end. Obviously, I'm sure Rob will come on to our show every once in a while for special events, anniversaries. I'm bored on a Friday night and Dina's out, so I want to do something, messages I might get. But with that in mind, for those of you who are listening via the podcast, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitch, we appreciate you listening. If you're listening via the podcast itself, the audio only, you can go check out the video. But Rob, there is a special thing that I have for you. This special thing comes compliments
hey Rob,
of a certain Matt Bush.
Oh God.
As we are talking right now, Matt Bush is going through one of the most stressful parts of a person's life, which means that he is about to ask his girlfriend to become his fiance.
No.
Yes. So
really?
Yes, really. So
she's pretty awesome too. I was glad to meet her. She's pretty cool.
Yeah, she is.
So I am getting the screen ready because I want to make sure Rob hears it.
Oh boy!
But with that in mind, I think you guys can see it. I think it can be shown on our screen, folks.
Yeah, I see it.
One last message from Matt Bush.
Hey Rob, sorry I couldn't be there tonight. Literally have an engagement to go to, so I couldn't hop on. But I just wanted to congratulate you on your time on the show. You definitely made it possible for other hosts to eventually come on and offer our 2 cents on the show. I wanted to personally apologize for possibly poisoning you a few times, but you always took the Four Loko or the Ice House or the Beasts always like a champ. So my only regret is we never got that Mario Kart costume together. So I really hope, in the next life, we can do something like that. So cheers. Here's to you, Rob.
There you go. That was nice.
Oh, Matt Bush. I appreciate it. I appreciate the words. I don't think we're ever doing that Mario Kart costume thing ever.
Like hell we aren't.
I just like no. I don't know. I just so people will have to go back to that episode. I'm not going to throw that joke out there. I guess really for me, I think I'd like to say first and foremost, thank you to my wife, to Dina, for letting me be a part of this show. And just basically, when it first became, the topic of conversation about being on the show, and I asked, if this is something I should do, and she was just like looked at me just incredulously and just like, yes, you should. This will be awesome. And so I really appreciate her for that push to get me to be a part of this. And I thank her for that. I thank her and the support of all of my children, Shyler, Skylar, Rosalie, and Kendall, and Chelsea. Definitely a shout out to you guys, to Ken, Nick, Dan, Wendy, Angie, Matt, all of you guys for bringing me on here and being a part of just this wonderful show, and being able to develop all of these different relationships that I have with a lot of the breweries that we've had on the show. I actually got the chance to talk to Kevin at North Center Brewing yesterday, as I did a private event there for trivia for Rivian, and he popped in just before I was leaving. So I got to chat with him, and I was really humbled by a lot of things that he said about me on the show. So thanks to Kevin about that. And it's going to be different. It's going to be looking at Fridays where I'm not preparing interview questions and getting news articles, and it is something I'm going to miss. But I'm really grateful for all the time that I've had here on the show, and I'm definitely looking forward to some of those special episodes where I get to jump in and just kind of be like, surprise, motherfuckers, here I am again. So that's what I got. Just thank you from every piece of my heart that this has just been awesome, and I just really appreciate it.
It's not goodbye, it's until next time.
Yes, sir.
For myself,
yes,
Nick and Robert, no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's
better on draft.
Have a good night.
Hold
Peace,
my blunt.
y'all.